comrades. Today we're going to talk about the climate change and the environment. It has been an intense debate developing all over the world in the last few years about climate change and the need to protect the environment, mainly with the introduction of renewable sources of energy. The general view seems to be that it has been a steady increase of warming in the Earth's atmosphere due to the man-made emissions of greenhouse gases, mostly carbon dioxide, and the only way to stop this and protect the Earth from further catastrophic warming is to convert to the use of renewable sources of energy. This view is systematically pushed forward by the Greens and other petty bourgeois and social democratic organizations and communist parties, as well as by capitalist media in many countries. This is strange and needs some further explanation. It is an indisputable fact that the capitalist activity of extracting the maximum profit by exploiting people and nature has contributed more than any other factor in polluting the Earth's atmosphere, the soil and waters, and causing critical degradation to the environment. The CPA, for instance, agrees with this assessment. The introduction of the book written by Hannah Middleton, Hot Earth, points out, I quote, "Scientific and technological progress under capitalism is used to make profits by exploiting people and nature. This has been the major contributor to the environmental and global economic crisis we now face," end quote. The book points out further that global warming and climate change are caused by human activities that emit greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and others into the atmosphere. The strange thing is that at the same time, the same sort of arguments which support the introduction of renewable sources of energy for electricity production are propagated and pushed through by capitalist media and capitalist institutions, including governments. The official policy of the German government, for instance, is the transition as soon as possible to renewable sources of energy. Not only the German government, but the entire European Union has the same policy and urges the member states to accelerate their efforts in this direction. The same is true for capitalist governments of other countries. So what has happened? Is all of a sudden capitalism so concerned with the protection of the earth and our environment and has embarked upon this scheme of saving the world and healthy conditions of life on earth? It is highly unlikely. Being Marxist-Leninists, we must always look beyond the surface of the case in question. We must examine all aspects and interconnections of the issue we study. The fact that significant sections of the capitalist world are ready to support the transition to renewable sources is connected to the fact that there is a huge accumulated capital that must be invested profitably that is to bring the maximum profit for the owners of capital. The capitalists always look for means and ways of profitable investments. So they opted for solar panels and wind turbines, which are very easy to produce. They don't need huge investments, and therefore they secure very high profitability. Before I return to this question to examine how friendly or otherwise are the renewable sources, let me pose the question of climate change and what is causing it. It is true that during the ages of the planet Earth, there have been some dramatic climate changes. Some millions of years ago, the Earth was subjected to the Ice Age, during which the temperatures dropped so low and the Earth was covered by a thick layer of ice. This resulted in tremendous changes, like the extermination of dinosaurs and many other living creatures, and changes to the vegetation. At a later stage in the history of geology, this was followed by a severe dryness, extremely high temperatures, and desertification of large areas of our planet. And this process is repeated regularly to the present era. Let me remind you that 12,000 years ago, the area which is now the Sahara Desert was a green paradise with forests and all kinds of plantations. All these changes to the environment and many others were changes brought about by natural processes, not by human activity. Let us now examine the nature of current climate changes. It is claimed by a considerable section of the scientific world that the current global warming is due to the emissions of greenhouse gases, mainly carbon dioxide, as a result of human activities. There are other scientists who express a different point of view about carbon dioxide. Professor of Geology at the University of Technology of Crete, Antonis Foskolos, maintains that the quantity of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere today is not more than what it was 100 years ago. He tables various reliable measures of the Earth's atmosphere as proof of his argument. Furthermore, he argues that the transition to renewable sources has nothing to do with reducing global warming, but a lot to do with creating huge profits for people investing in this area. Energy produced by renewable sources, he argues, is far more expensive than energy produced by fossil fuels, and it doesn't contribute anything to a cleaner environment. These arguments take us back to the contradictory question of capitalists supporting the Green New Deal. Being aware of the nature of capitalism, we know that the Green New Deal project does not aim at saving the world and not for providing a cleaner environment. If these capitalists really wanted to provide clean energy and a healthy environment, they could invest their capital in producing energy by hydroelectric plants, by geothermal energy, and by water fission, which produce absolutely clear energy. The capitalists are not interested, however, to investing money in these areas because the construction of dams and hydroelectric plants, as well as geothermal and fission processes, require huge investments, making the rate of profit very low. On the other hand, solar panels and wind turbines are easily produced, they don't require huge investments, and bring quick and big profits. Some sections of the international communist movement consider the Green New Deal as the pinnacle of saving the earth from destruction. The CPA, for instance, in another of its publications by Hannah Middleton, titled Fighting for the Future, describes the Green New Deal in the following terms. The Green New Deal is essentially a shift to renewable energy. It should produce enormous savings, millions of jobs, and other benefits, including healthier air. This view contradicts reality. The Green New Deal, as I explained above, is a scheme by powerful sections of the capitalist establishment to provide a field of very profitable investments for massive accumulated capital. It doesn't continue to clean the environment. It provides much more expensive energy and fewer jobs. In Europe, where the Green New Deal has been applied more extensively than elsewhere, the people of the European countries are now buying 4 and 5 times more expensive electricity than ever before and are experiencing higher unemployment rates. As for the claim for a cleaner environment, this will be the next point of our discussion. Let us, however, make another important point about the issue of global warming. During the last 6 months, there have been public statements made by scientists in Europe, including Professor Foskolos, mentioned above, referring to a study by NASA, according to which the cooling of the Earth has already commenced, and that for the next 30 years, the Earth will face a period of cooling with the drop of temperatures by 1.5 to 2 degrees, and severe snowfalls and cold weather. Here again, we have an example of changes by natural causes, independent of human will and intervention. Professor Foskolos argues that the issue of carbon dioxide is a fairy tale. The existing climate change is due to a combination of the sun's magnetic fields. When these fields are inactive, we have a cooling period on Earth and vice versa. In other words, when the magnetic fields on the sun are very active, the Earth's temperature is rising. For the last 12 months, all of NASA's satellites tell us that the sun's magnetic fields do not work. They are inactive. Therefore, we are going to have a cooling period of 30 to 34 years. During this magnetic inactivity, dust is interposed in between the sun and the Earth that prevents the sunrise to reach and warm the Earth. It has nothing to do with carbon dioxide. So for the next 30 years, at least, we are going to have not a hot Earth, but a cool Earth. How does this affect the argument for urgent measures needed to prevent global warming? In my view, more thoughtful consideration of the whole issue is needed. Let us now consider how friendly to the environment are the renewable sources of energy. For the installation of one wind turbine of 3 megawatt capacity, the following materials need to be thrown into the huge crater in the ground. 1,500 tons of concrete, 3,000 tons of iron, 1,000 tons of cobalt, 5,000 tons of copper, 300 tons of alumina, 544 kilos of mercury, and large quantities of fluoride sulfur. This last substance is a toxic greenhouse gas, more than 2,500 times stronger and more harmful than carbon dioxide. Some of the above metals are part of what is termed as rare earths. The mining of these metals emit into the atmosphere 420,000 cubic feet of toxic gases, so much about clean wind turbines. The toxic materials used for blending the wind turbines pollute the soil and the underground waters. When the wind turbines are planted into the sea, they pollute the sea waters, the fish, and all other forms of life in the sea. They enter the food chain and poison people who eat seafood. To illustrate the disastrous effect of the pollution of underground waters from land-placed turbines, I will refer to the case of the northern Greek city of Drama. This city and some little towns and villages in the vicinity have a population of approximately 120,000 people. On the mountains overlooking the area, private corporations, with the government's consent, planted hundreds of wind turbines. If so much toxic material is dumped into the ground in the case of one turbine, just imagine what the case will be for hundreds of turbines. On these mountains, however, underground springs of water provide the sources of the river, which flows close to the populated area and supply drinking water to the population mentioned above. The end result has been that the toxic materials used for placing the turbines into the ground have polluted the river waters and are causing deaths from cancer at an alarming rate among the population mentioned above. According to official statistics, the number of deaths from cancer in this particular area is 20 times higher than the national average. In addition, the electromagnetic radiation produced by the turbines affects negatively the bird population and other forms of life in the area. The solar panels are not free of problems either, and not so clean as advertised. The radiation produced by them has a negative effect on the environment. These issues are not mentioned at all by the media in Australia and most of the other Western countries, so that the people are kept in the dark and support uncritically the Green New Deal. Carbon dioxide has been systematically made responsible for global warming, irrespective of the fact that there are large quantities of methane emitted in the atmosphere daily by cattle, sheep, other vegetarian animals, and humans. Animals and humans emit the equivalent of 160 billion of cubic meters of carbon dioxide. Burning of coal produces 39 billions of cubic meters of carbon dioxide. Who is going to stop these emissions by the animal world, and how? As mentioned above, according to scientific predictions, the Earth is going to go through a cooling period for the next 30 years. Since global warming has been used as the justification for the transition to Green New Deal, I wonder what new justification will be invented now by the capitalists who want to continue their profitable investments in renewable sources. The current situation places some difficult challenges to the working class movement worldwide. Communist forces are convinced of the fact that capitalism has no interest and cannot provide a clean environment and a viable human development. They are only interested to extract as much profit as possible by exploiting the working class and plundering natural resources, polluting and destroying the environment. The real challenge, therefore, for the communists and the class-oriented working class movement is to convince the popular masses to abandon their inactivity and actively participate in a broad, powerful people's movement against their capitalist exploiters, aiming at overthrowing the moribund capitalist system and establish a socialist society. Only a socialist society can put an end to the human exploitation and the plundering and mistreating of nature for private gains, and thus provide a centrally and scientifically controlled economy aiming not at profit by some, but at meeting the needs and the interests of the working people and the whole working class and the whole people. Only such a working class regime can produce genuine measures for protecting nature and providing a clean and healthy environment for the development of human society. Meanwhile, while we still live under capitalism, the working class movements aim for a clean environment should concentrate in its efforts in raising the demands for clean energy to be produced by state-owned hydroelectric plants and by using geothermal energy wherever possible, and water-efficient processes. The energy thus produced to be made available to the people on low, affordable prices. We know, of course, that the correlation of forces in the working class movement at present does not permit us to have any illusions that the state of the ruling capitalist class will accept and implement such demands. That's why we stress the need that our prime efforts must be to build a strong and class-oriented movement among the working class that can have much greater leverage than at present and be capable of exerting strong enough pressure on the government of the day to implement some meaningful measures. Thank you for your attention.